I'll be back. Howdy everybody, right here in my car today, travelling around as you do when you've got to pick up kids. Anyway, I was just at work today, and there's this big thing at work at the moment, and it's called learning about unconscious bias. What are those things that have been instilled in you through your own personal evolutionary experience of your life that signals how you perceive things, how you react to things, how you act to stress, whether you unconsciously favour certain people and certain types of people and overlook others who may be much better placed to take things forward. So I decided there's a lot of people at my work who right up at the high end of the echelons of the structures, they've all been going, you've got to go and take on this unconscious bias training, everybody needs to do it, blah blah blah. So I thought I would look into it. There was the impetus for me to look at it today was I'd received an internal email from our Women at Work group, and they had forwarded a YouTube video by McKinsey's, the consultants, about unconscious bias, and I started watching it, and I was nearly apoplectic with it. They had made the whole thing about unconscious bias related to feminism and the way that the patriarchy treats women, but they'd turned it around so that it was men that were at the on the end of the crap that was coming out of the woman's voice, and basically saying, how would you like it if this actually happened? Well, I've got to say, in the area where I work in, frankly, it's way past 60% of it is women. Women control the top of the organisation, and what they showed was exactly what happens in exactly the way they show it. It is abuse by women of their power and position over other people, irrespective whether those other people are men or women. And they called this unconscious bias by men against women, and it got the heckles up on me a little bit, I have to say. So I thought I would have a look at the corporate unconscious bias online learning tool that they had. I was pleasantly surprised, I have to say, that it wasn't about feminism. It was about everybody. It was about general diversity, general equality, and general understanding of what it was that makes your own brain tick and how you work against it, which is great. I'm really happy with that, despite the fact that a lot of feminine ideals and values and traits have been put forward in my organisation as the way that everybody should be over the past 20 years. Maybe that's why we screw up so much. But anyway, the start of this unconscious bias training was another one of these things where they really hadn't looked at what it was that they were really looking at. They used an example to highlight unconscious bias, as a very famous violinist had played the night before to a packed out concert in New York, and these people had paid $100 each to go and watch this famous violinist and listen to him. And then the next day he spent 45 minutes in a New York subway, not the sandwich shop but the underground, or the train station, just playing as a busker. And over the course of 45 minutes he made $37 or something. And thousands of people just walked straight past him without giving him a second look. Now, I've got some issues with this example. First of all, violinists, classical violinists of this type, are of particular appeal to a certain segment of society. Generally the upper class, and definitely not aimed at the normal people, the general population, and the poorer people. Also aimed, I suppose, at a certain age, should I say, in general. Definitely at the older age. So older and much more affluent people. And that is very clear when it comes to the fact that these people paid $100 each to go and watch this guy at this concert. The second bit is, it can't be unconscious bias if you're not bloody interested in it. So you're not interested in it, so you don't know anything about who is famous, who isn't, and you wouldn't have a clue whether it was good music or not. It doesn't matter. If it had been Slipknot playing there as a band to a bunch of people from the higher echelons of society, they'd have walked past, probably with their fingers in their ears, going, what a bloody noise. And again, I wouldn't call that unconscious bias. It's very conscious. You're not interested. The other aspect is, in a subway, as people are commuting, they're in a rush. They're off to work. They don't care about a busker that much. They maybe don't have the time. They've got somewhere to get to for a certain time. So when it starts off with something like that, you know that it's going to be a right load of crap. The next bit that it came out with was about a picture of this tiger, big snarling teeth. What would you do if you were confronted by this tiger? And you were given two options. One, run. Two, stand and challenge. Well, actually, there's quite a few other options, and a lot of it depends on other aspects that are going on. If you were in a big group of people and you knew that you weren't the slowest and everybody started running, you'd run. Because you knew that as soon as the first person was caught, that's it, you're safe. You just have to make sure you're not the bloody slowest, or you don't fall over. Secondly, if you're in a group and everybody stands up and starts challenging this thing, making themselves out to be a very, very large organisation, a bit like a herd of buffalo, all sticking together and staring down this animal, the animal can't really do anything. And if you've got some kind of weapons, something you can hit it with, something you can scare it off, there's that. Then when you look up the actual answers that they give, when they say run, they say, yep, that's the right answer. You get out there as fast as you can. Well, you don't actually. If you look at what it says from the research on this, it says running is not a good idea. Running gives the animal an idea that it's now in hunt mode, so it will come after you. And I personally prefer to keep my eyes on this thing rather than have my back to it. There's also an indication that they aim for the spinal cord, and that hunters from those areas wear hats that have a face on the back, coming down the back of their head, as a way of preventing any hunter animals thinking that they're not watching them, because they like to stalk and like to keep themselves out of the vision of these things. So I really wasn't impressed with the start of this thing. There were other aspects that were really, really unimpressive as well. There were some good bits, but at least it wasn't as awful as the McKinsey feminism stuff. It really does start making you wonder who actually wrote that or put it together for McKinsey's and who signed it off. Embarrassing stuff. I don't really know what goes on in the corporate world of the top levels of consultancy and banking. It may well be that that's exactly what it's like. Who knows? I don't. Someone else will know. But it's not like that where I work. It's rather different. A bit more advanced. We look at equality and diversity in theory across the proper range of values and characteristics that people have. I'll be back.
There's only one way of life, and that's you roll, you roll, you roll.
Hey, I'm back. Out from all of the crap. Well, that conversation sort of leads me on to the next bit that I wanted to talk about, which is about extremism within ideologies. And a lot of time when people think about extremism, they start talking about a certain religion and terrorism. I'm not talking about that, although some would say that this issue is a religion itself. And that's the social justice warrior movement around extremist feminism, where everything is sexist, everything is bad. A lot of the stuff within the unconscious bias work was about stereotypes and about understanding that stereotypes can give you a generic understanding of an average of a population, but you cannot apply that stereotype to any individual because they'll have their own individual characteristics and everything that's linked in with that, which will make them totally different. They're on a spectrum themselves, which could put them completely out of the whole stereotype itself. And this is where I have a problem with these latest neo-feminist social justice warrior nutters. And these people are not, I'm not saying that these people are women, these people are men as well. There's a big spectrum of people out there that are doing this stuff. All blaming men, white males, the patriarchy, everything in society is to do with they've been oppressed. And in general, they're usually white, middle to upper class girls or boys, hipsters, who, for whatever reason, are using a stereotype of an extreme end of the male psyche, rapists and massive sexism and this, that and the other, and saying all men are like that. And there's a lot of people on YouTube that are very much railing against this. Honey Badger Radio is a really interesting one to watch because that's some women and a bloke that are pretty much putting forward the anti-neo-feminist view. There's Sargon of Akkad. There's one of my favourite. He is one of my favourites. I do like listening to him. When I first watched one of his stuff, I thought it was a bit crap actually. I thought he was just a bit of a nutter. Maybe I just watched a single one where he was a bit strange in it. But the rest of his stuff, really interesting stuff, really starts making you think. You don't need to agree with everything that he says, but he's very rational and logical. Talking about rational and logical, Thunderfoot. He is one of my favourites. He's a scientist. And he's been getting a lot of grief. He's been giving a lot of grief as well, I have to say. Anita Sarkeesian, who was recently at the United Nations, giving some kind of self-promotion alongside some of the other Gamergate people about sexism, and effectively saying that if anybody argues with a woman on the internet, it's called trolling and it's cyber abuse, and it needs to be outlawed. So you can't even have an argument now, you can't have a debate, you can't question their ideas and their ideologies, you can't claim that what they're saying is wrong or doesn't fit. And Thunderfoot's been having a bit of a long-standing battle with her, and the self-proclaimed temporary leader of the social justice warrior network, somebody called Laughing Witch, decided to get a load of the social justice warriors together and send emails and letters to Thunderfoot's employer, because Thunderfoot has been doxed, I think is the word. Really strange word, where your name and your details have been put out on the internet so everyone knows who you are. And so they were sending these emails through to his employer saying that he's a rabid sexist, he's a racist, he's a Nazi, he's anti this, that and the other, he's a fascist, he has an army of pardon me, an army of death threat followers, sheep, who will go out and threaten everybody else. And it's absolutely amazing stuff, expecting him to get fired, and they actually claimed he was fired, did Laughing Witch, in a half-an-hour rant on her own channel, and she was very, very, very nasty about it. I don't give a shit, and putting a finger up to the camera, saying this is how much I care about you, and it's not going to affect her in any way, shape or form. Well, interestingly, I mean, this all came from Thunderfoot. He put it up. What she did was, in her video, this half-an-hour video, she actually showed a copy of the letter that she sent to his employer, and pointed out that it was sent from her real name. She doxed herself to his employer, not from Laughing Witch, which meant that this woman could be identified. So Thunderfoot, in looking at this, just did a little bit of an internet search, found out that she was the office manager for some company, some organisation, which she claimed that she was part owner of. It was her husband's corporation or something, and that nothing would happen to her. Wow. Well, turns out that there's a lot of people have gone onto their Yelp website and have really said some quite nasty stuff about her. And it turns out that other people have found that under the name Laughing Witch, she had been shilling posts to try and big up her company, saying how much that she had got a great service from her company, and it was really professional and one of the best, and this, that and the other. And that's now illegal in the UK as far as I know, but this is a US company. It's probably illegal over there as well. Absolutely fascinating stuff. But what seems to have happened is, well, I don't know what's happened, but Laughing Witch has closed her YouTube channel, she has closed her Google Plus page, she has shut down her Twitter feed, everything. She's gone off the grid. Worked out really, really well for you, didn't it, Laughing Witch? Very strange stuff. See, the difference between Thunderfoot and the rest of the rationalists, for want of a better word, and these social justice warriors, is the rationalists are looking at things in a rational manner. They pull out evidence and they highlight the ideological hatred and bias and sexism and racism and fascism of these people who claim to be the bastions of these moralistic areas. So anyway, I've been really quite enjoying the outcomes of various things recently, highlighting those areas. I think I'll leave it there because I'm nearly at Burger King for some really, really bad food. See you all. Ta-ra.